Hello out there, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Public Conscience on Radio. I'm Okiya Agbonsuremi. Public Conscience is an anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development with support from the Makato Foundation. My co-anchor, Chukwudi Okole Ugbaja, is right in with me here in the studio. Chukwudi.
Always good to know you're out there. Feel welcome as usual, please.
President Muhammadu Buhari is in for another 4 years in office. So it is a moment that presents the president with another opportunity to re-energize the efforts to fight corruption. But has there been sincere and holistic fight against corruption in the last 4 years? Did President Buhari tackle corruption very well in the last 4 years? What is the way forward for Nigeria?
The drawbacks in the fight against corruption have become a major worry for many Nigerians. Question is, did the Buhari first tenure deliver as expected? And what hopes lie ahead in this fight, which many believe needs a strong will and determination to accomplish?
The fight against corruption, to many, has not quite hit the mark. Yes, a serving Senator Joshua Dariye, who is also a former governor, has been jailed, while the nation's former Chief Judge, Walter Onogen, has been forced to leave office over corruption charges. But then, just a couple of days back, an Abuja court dismissed a case of money laundering brought against Robert Azibola, a cousin of former President Goodluck Jonathan, for lack of convincing evidence by the EFCC to prosecute the case.
Let's not forget that the anti-corruption fight was the main flyer by which the president campaigned for election in the first place. The president's wife, Aisha Buhari, only a few days ago, frowned on the implementation of the Social Investment Programs, SIP, in the northern part of the country, particularly Kano.
The special assistant to the president, Miriam Weiss, said Aisha Buhari needed access to data before her criticisms of the SIP. The People's Democratic Party, the opposition party in Nigeria, PDP, lashed on the Aisha Buhari's criticism and said it is all pointed to what they call the massive fraud in Buhari's administration.
You begin to wonder how these things happen. Remember that just about 2 editions ago, Public Conscience took up corruption in NPAR, one of the programs under the SIP. We are today giving you the opportunity to assess the Buhari administration's anti-corruption fight as the president begins a second term in office. Did President Buhari tackle corruption properly in the last 4 years? What's the way forward in the next 4 years?
And our guest, EZE Onyenkpere, definitely knows how, where the fight is possibly going very well and where it is lagging behind in execution. EZE Onyenkpere is Executive Director, Center for Social Justice, and is right here in the studio. Welcome to Public Conscience.
Oh, thank you very much.
Now, let's begin with you. Let us have the first assessment.
But let me make one caveat. Yeah. You know, you said EZE Onyenkpere knows about these issues very well.
Yeah.
And let it not be that I told to Nigerians that I'm very experienced in issues of corruption. I have no, let me make a caveat. I have no experience. So I have no experience on these matters. I'm only talking about what I read in the books.
Okay.
And you know the problem with Nigeria is that we don't bring people who have practical experience to such subjects. Instead of we bring theoreticians. You should have brought a very practically experienced man or woman on this subject.
He has only introduced you. He didn't say you're culpable.
No. So that Nigerians can understand. He talks about practical experience.
All right. Let's take it. Let's face the issue. The question is: you are a Nigerian. You have been around. Everybody respects your pedigree in what you have been able to do in the. Right from the CLO, when I first made my contact with you, and up till now, when you are the Center for Social Justice, what's your own assessment of the past 4 years? As a Nigerian, as an ordinary Nigerian who is watching, what is your own assessment of the anti-corruption war under the Buhari administration?
Well, 4 years ago, there were very high hopes of a change in the way and manner we were fighting corruption, especially looking back at the pedigree and the mantra of the man who took over, and also the campaign promises. But unfortunately, it was a situation of whetting the appetite and letting people have high expectations. And at the end of the day, the performance wasn't as good or as high as the expectations we had for a couple of reasons. The first one was that the approach to fighting corruption wasn't really evidence-based. It was some form of staccato movement. If you recall, when Obasanjo came on board, he made also the usual noises about corruption. And the ICPC Act was the first bill he sent to the National Assembly. And they gave it back to him within a space of a few weeks. So he understood he needed new laws or policies to fight corruption, then Obasanjo. But what we saw was that the administration came on board. They wanted to fight corruption, but they didn't sit back to have an evaluation of what had gone on before. Where have been the main success points? What are the challenges and the threats? And then bring forth new laws and policies to tackle those threats and challenges so that they can make better progress. So it's like you saw a battle, dive headlong into the battle without watching very well. So in the process of diving headlong, we did not understand what we needed to do to move that battle to the real next level in terms of winning more wars. And along the line, the war became corrupted itself. The war against corruption became corrupted because it now became some form of a sort of Damocles, a threat or used to hunt the opposition. A very clear case was the Saraki indictment as Senate President when he could not agree with his political party members about who should emerge Senate President. He was clearly told by the then former party chairman Oyegu that they can give him a soft landing if he resigns as Senate President when he was charged. So that stated clearly that it wasn't an issue of whether he was corrupt or not. And then the shielding of obviously corrupt men around the president began with all the people, the grass-cutting case, even the Maina case, which up till now is left unresolved. The media kept pushing and say, go here, go there. This is what is happening to the Ikoige scandals. So it became to the point where, in the public perception, the war is being fought selectively. And mind you, just a minute, the war cannot be fought outside of the concept of the rule of law.
The good thing now is that President Muhammadu Buhari is telling everyone that the criminal justice system should get ready for an overhaul. The police will be held more accountable now. Maybe that's the push we've been expecting.
No. Let's understand it properly. The war against corruption cannot be fought outside the concept of the rule of law. Yeah. And the concept of the rule of law is founded on the very basic tenets of justice.
Somebody is talking about the structures.
I'm coming on that. And the very basic tenets of justice, the most basic of the basics, is treat like cases alike and unlike cases unlike. Then you come to what he talked about, the police and the judiciary. He can push for police reforms, which is within the realm of the executive. But of course, unfortunately, you saw the police reform bill died in the House. Yes. It wasn't even an executive bill.
Yeah.
It's not an executive bill. It was like a private member bill. Now being pushed through the Senate, but somehow it got lost. Now, judicial reforms is not in his territory. There is separation of powers. It is not him who has to reform the judiciary. Although he could make a push by reminding the chief judge and the members of the judiciary to take some steps. And with them, he can craft a bill. But what he owes them is to give them the maximum support to funding and resources for them to change. He can bring about discussion about change, but at the end of the day, it's still up to the judges and those sitting at the helm of affairs to reform. And that is why some of us are crying that you cannot fight a successful war against corruption without activist judges. I haven't. Sorry, cutting you short. You actually give a hint to my next question.
Yeah.
Many people believe that the fight had some color of selection.
Some careless.
Some selection. You mentioned the grass cutting former secretary to the government whose trial is on. It took a long time.
Yeah, it took a push and a push by people like you and me shouting every day, say, what's happening? It's over 2-3 years it happened. So it's not like they did it willingly. It's not being done willingly. And I wouldn't be surprised if the case is
If it goes the way of some of that case, we have governors who left office in 2007 and they are still undergoing trial. Now, we are going to quickly let those who are listening out there, and those who have also joined me on Facebook, please just quickly get your phones ready and get your comments ready to drop for us, because we want to interact with you largely this morning. 090-2265-6167. That is the WhatsApp number. That is 090-2265-6167. Please drop a WhatsApp message for us now, and we'll take it. And the question is very simple. Did President Buhari tackle corruption very well in the last 4 years? And what's the way forward in the next 4 years for the nation in the fight against corruption? Give us your wrap-up of what you have to tell us. Within 60 seconds, wrap it up, and then we'll be able to share your views as we interact continuously with our guests in the studio. Now, we have asked you all the questions about what probably is the picture that we have seen. We are going to be asking you, what picture are we likely to see in the next 4 years? Does the fight we have seen now, the way it has gone, is there any indication, with the promise from the president that he is going to change certain things? What picture are we likely to see in the next 4 years? But the phones are open, and we have a caller on the line already. Hello.
American Professor of Journalism. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Adewumi Daniel. Good morning to everybody in the studio.
Go on, please.
The president is fighting political enemies. He's not fighting corruption. Because when we are talking about fighting corruption, you have to fight it holistically. Look at Amechi. Look at Oshomale case. A lot of people who are in APC today, they are corrupt. They are not angels. But this man never go to. Just the issue of Babaki Lawan. See, don't be surprised. And why come for this second time? Babaki Lawan case will die. He will die prematurely. We will not hear about it again. He could get paid. Tinubu and is dead because somebody is using tribe issue.
All right. Let us make it as short as possible. 094. Hello, go on.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Thank you so much.
My name is Amoyeze. Amoyeze, engineer Amoyeze CEO.
Thank you.
I'm calling you from AYA.
Yeah, go ahead.
No fight for any corruption. There's no sincerity of purpose. Hello?
Yes, we are listening to you.
There's no fight for any corruption anywhere. Any single fight of corruption anywhere. Nigeria is even more corrupt now than ever.
But we have a former governor in jail.
There is no fight for any corruption. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Except we're deceiving ourselves. There's no fight for any single corruption anywhere.
All right, let's get to give another person an opportunity. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
For me, I thank God you've seen from the corner. You know, our people, there's an adage in my area that says, the thing when people go sweet, and when it mess, and I go no. First time we didn't see much. It was just drama. The more you look, the less you see. You have the issue of what use of color. You are saying that you have facial direct. How what use of color? There is a very strong APC guy. Not too long ago, like a few days ago, it was an Aso Rock. But it was the same person that EFCC declared wanted. Suddenly he's now on handshake with the president. We are not going to see more, because even that the normal governors, when you are going to see a governor who is going to perform, maybe first time, usually second time is when they use time to make money and settle up. So how do you expect much now? You're going to see more fight against political opponents, against those who do not agree with him. All right.
That's serious. We have more calls coming. Hello.
My name is Ahmed Al-Hassan.
Ahmed Al-Hassan, thank you.
Yeah. I think the fight against corruption is real, and I think it's going on. And this is the first administration that shows that commitment and shows that zeal and takes it as a mantra in their campaign agenda and even as a policy in their government. And we've seen the recovery highest ever recorded in this country. We've seen the whistleblower policy. We've seen the implementation of the CSA to block the leakages. We've seen the implementation of the BVS. We've seen the judiciary. The president has always complained is slowing down and frustrating his government. It's because of the slow process, which is part of the business trying to curb the judiciary. Judges were being tried, military commanders are being tried, Senate president have been tried, the governors have put in jail. So many things is going on, and I think I give it to this administration. May we continue to see more as the Oliver things we always have for me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank God for that.
Maybe he should have told us how he thinks it can be improved.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, my name is Andrew Babadola.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think most Nigerians, the way we think about these issues, to me, it shows that we're not really thinking well of how to develop our nation. The man Buhari, as far as I'm concerned, he has done his best. What has come to play? He has shown that only the executive cannot fight this corruption. That we need all the arms of government to be in tandem to fight this issue. But when you leave it for only one man, and the guy is doing the most possible, the best, as far as I'm concerned, he could have done. I don't see any Nigerian. This is the best man, the best Nigerian I've ever seen in this position of power.
Okay. Hello.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Ohiria, my man, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program. Your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is Mr. Uche.
Yeah, Uche, go ahead.
This issue of corruption, Buhari have tried, a little. But what someone like me want him to do, let them not leave this corruption issue from partisan way. Let it be on a neutral ground. If my party member falls any report in any form of corruption, deal with him. Not only telling it only on one side. Because it's making people like us to believe that it's only the reason to hunt other people. But if they would then change now to do it in a neutral way, if the left commit, judge the left, and when the right commit do it the same. So Nigeria would know that it's fighting corruption.
All right. That's a very good advice. Yeah, please tell us your name, where you are calling from. Good morning.
I'm happy to hear your voice in my radio.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Musa calling.
Musa, thank you.
Unfortunately, what you are seeing today, the corruption getting to advance. And every Nigeria is the beneficiary of corruption. We don't see anything like fighting corruption these days. Because being you in government, you can do whatever you like because you know that somebody there in your band that can back you or whatever. So there's nothing like fighting corruption. I pray I'm going to take another oath of office today. May God in heaven guide him and protect him and give him wisdom to move this country forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And please, when you call, put down the volume of your radio sets so that we can hear you very well. We are still here to take your calls and hear your perspectives. The fight against corruption the last 4 years, what do you think it has been? Has it been fought very well? And what do we expect in the next 4 years?
I'll let them suggest to us too how things can improve.
Hello. Hello. Please, if you get into us, put down the volume of your radio set so that we can hear you very clearly. 094 600 951. Hello.
Hello, good morning. My name is Ibu.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I don't think this government has ever fight corruption. If you have to fight corruption, our election will not be worse as our last election. Thank you. God bless you.
That's a good one.
Okay, this is Ismaila calling from Airport Road, sir.
Thank you very much, Ismaila.
Yes, sir. The major problem we are having in fighting this corruption is not Buhari, actually. I think the people, the surroundings, are not in any way supporting this policy because most of them have been sunk into this corruption. It has become an ethics. Hello?
We are hearing you. Go ahead.
It has become an ethics, and for them to leave it now, it has been another problem to the country. If you watch, this policy would have gone a long way helping this country, reviving the economy. If every other stakeholder from the House of Assembly, House of Representatives, the directors, the managers, if they accept all there's a way they can support and say, okay, this policy, number one, first of all, let's cut down our own salary
to support this policy, because if at all the House of Assembly especially cut down their salary at the very beginning of this man regime, that would have showed the whole Nigeria that they are ready to support this man to fight this corruption.
All right, well, let's come back to the studio, because we have had a lot. We'll be coming back to the phone lines subsequently. Yes. But I want you to react. Yes.
Let me chip in something here. This is the kind of discussion to support him to fight corruption.
Yes.
By cutting their salary. Did he cut his own salary? He should lead by example.
Yes.
And like I've always told Nigerians,
make asset declaration public.
Like I've always told Nigerians, the soldiers have always fought. The difference between a dictatorship and civil rule or democratic rule is the legislature.
Yes.
Under the military, you had the executive combining legislative powers in the Armed Forces Ruling Council or Supreme Military Council. The judiciary was allowed to exist, although they were blowing muted trumpets through after, of course, jurisdiction decrees. Right? So, as soon as Obasanjo, who was a former military dictator, took power as a civilian government, the first thing he did was to see that he could no longer exercise dominant power without recourse to the legislature. He started blackmailing the legislature by announcing that they took furniture allowance for this thing. The way he said it, and what the average Nigerian does not know up till today, is that these were allowances approved for them by the appropriate authority, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Approved these things, which came to the National Assembly and approved it, not just for themselves alone, for all members of the executive, from the president to the vice president, to the SS, the ministers, to the judicial officers. So we're always singling out these men in the legislature for punching unduly.
Let's take a hit from one of the callers. And I want us to quickly put it as a nucleus of what we are discussing. He says he probably don't see anything wrong with President Muhammadu Buhari as a person, but the people around him. Has this president been able to manage with the integrity he has in picking up those who actually work with him consensuously? In the last 4 years, what have we seen? And in picking his aides for the next 4 years, what are we expecting?
A president is as good as his team. Light attracts light. Darkness attracts darkness. You cannot be a very wonderful good man, a prophet, a pastor, a bishop, an imam, and all people around you are thieves. That means there must be something we are not seeing. What we are seeing is the facade. So, it is not a question of the people around you. You have security reports, which I don't have access to as a president. You recall what stopped the approval, the Senate approval of the EFCC?
Yes, Chairman.
At every stage, for every person who comes up, there's a security report. A dossier produced by DSS. It didn't start with EFCC chairman. It didn't stop with him. They produced security reports indicting him.
So on two occasions,
did the president not read those security reports? Is there anybody he appointed who he didn't have a security report on? So in essence, what I'm saying is that the president saw those security reports and still went ahead to appoint them.
But that would affect their credibility.
Yeah, so a man is anticipated to appreciate and to expect the natural consequences of his act. If you take a ball and kick it up, you know that there's a law of gravity, it must fall down. So if it falls down, you see a car in front, you kick it towards that and it comes down and breaks the glass of your neighbor's car. And you say, oh, I didn't know, I didn't expect it. I will tell you that what you're saying doesn't. So I don't want to excuse him. I'm not excusing him. He's in charge. So if A is not working, you should remove him. I recall there was this joke. Obasanjo was once asked in his days, some journalists like you asked him whether that he was not performing. Obasanjo asked them, is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala performing? They say, yes, she's trying. Is Chukwuma Soludo performing? He said, he's trying. Is El-Rufai, the bulldozer, trying? He said, yes, he tries more. Obasanjo now laughed and said, if these people are performing, so who
that was native sense.
Yes. Who is their boss? Can I be everywhere?
Now, can we take it forward? Let's take it forward. Right. From what we have seen and the kind of energy we are seeing in the voice of the president, saying that is, what picture are you seeing
now in
the next 4 years?
If he wants to change, Now he must change the mantra of the change they are talking. That change begins with Austin or EZE. Change must begin with him. He must change. That's the first thing. He must understand that the buck stops at his table, and then he must go for the finest of Nigerians. Every time I watch my social media or read the newspapers, I see young Nigerians breaking barriers, breaking records outside of this country. 100-year records. Nigerian students are breaking them, inventing apps, becoming mayors and elected councillors in their new abode less than 10 years after they left Nigeria. And then right here in Nigeria, there are people he's not using. For instance, inside the APC, how come the APC is having problems running the economy? And a certain Professor Patu Tomi is sitting down somewhere, not even invited to be on the table. And you bring all manner of charlatans to be running the economy, and you want to tell me you are serious?
Okay.
Please. One has to select right men and stop the blame game. Stop pushing back the blame to, as if to say Nigeria's history started with Jonathan and PDP.
Okay.
He was part of the problem in the first place.
We are still on, and then we can still take your calls.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
Yes, this is Oluwa Tony.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm calling from Maraba.
Go ahead, please.
Well, in my own case, for the past 4 years of the APC administration, corruption is at the high gear. You understand? We are in the state of limbo. You know, this country, in short, the corruption is as so high as when somebody says it's high, the corruption high.
Can you be specific? Can you be specific?
A particular institution, University of Abuja, have been calling on this thing. The appropriate authority, they don't want to do anything about it. How will an institution be waiving people's results for the past 2 years? Abuja Distance Learning Center. How will they be holding people's results for the past 2 years and not saying anything?
All right. I don't know how to read that as partly corruption. Now let's take the next call. Hello.
Hello.
Good
morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Kes Moses.
Thank you very much, Moses.
Right. The truth about corruption is all these stories we are talking about every day, corruption in this country. In fact, the leadership will be able to fix all the infrastructures in this country. Provide power, provide light, provide all these things. Once all these things are working, corruption will fizzle out. Hello,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my brother, you see, what I want Mr. President to do is this. He should be serious in this 4 years that he's starting for us today. He has used the past 4 years to serve himself, his voice, and the party members. Because if you say he didn't achieve anything, yes, to the nation, he did not achieve anything, but for himself, he has achieved a lot. He is more healthier than he used to be now. So he has used the past 4 years to serve himself, the voice, and the party members. So he should use these remaining 4 years to work for Nigerians.
Okay. Let's just... there's hello?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. And go right on.
Calling from Apo.
Your name?
Mask Man.
Okay, go Mask Man. Why are you masked? Go ahead, please.
You see, this fight against corruption, we cannot say the president is not fighting corruption, because the president alone cannot fight corruption. He has the intention to stop corruption in this country. It is the duty of we, the citizens, to be objective, to focus with him, to be objective. That is only when we can achieve this fight against corruption.
All right, thank you very much. I rate the present government 20% in fighting corruption. Hence, the fight is for some few individuals. Imagine the national chairman of the ruling party declaring openly that your sins are all forgiven if you join the APC. And that's from Miracle. He didn't tell us where he's sending that from. Miracle, thank you. And the other person says, what has APC done to improve the fight against corruption through legislative means? Joshua Sampson is asking, what has the APC done to use the legislature to improve the fight against corruption? It's quite obvious that the only people who are being fought by Buhari and his corruption-fighting agents are the political enemies. Any case against Buhari's men are always dead on arrival. It's only APC blind supporters who believe that they are fighting corruption. Ike from and more from the other platforms. Good morning. Buhari is fighting prosperity, not corruption. If you wear good shirts, he sees you as a thief. But if you look thin and hungry, he says you are holy. E.g., he says police IG is losing weight. And that shows killing is going on everywhere, including Katsina, his home state. And that is from Destiny Anthony. Let's take some 1, 2, 3 more phone calls, then we come back to our guest. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Please go straight. 60 seconds should be okay for you.
The name is younger brother to Maskman.
You are younger brother to Maskman. Go on.
Yes, I don't know why we are confusing ourselves. This man is not fighting corruption. What he is fighting is just recovering looting funds. But I don't know why we are mistaking recovering of looting funds to fighting of corruption. I believe this is the height of corruption I've ever seen in this country.
All right. Thank you.
But then he's saying evil money does not pay. That's a deterrent.
But let me just quickly ask my guest, EZE ONYEKPERE here. Is there a difference between recovering stolen money, which is also like taking money from those who are corrupt, and the fight against corruption itself? Is there any difference?
I am a bit confused with this new jurisprudential postulates.
Can you break that down, please?
No. My father paid for this. You should permit me from time to time. We pay school fees. I didn't attend a federal school. They then only most to university.
What's the difference between?
I pay school fees, very heavy one. So from time to time, you allow me the latitude to even speak Latin jargons.
Go on, sir.
So, if you have to recover looted funds,
yes,
you are fighting corruption.
Yes.
So I don't understand the difference. Maybe we should have allowed him some 2 more minutes to explain
to
this.
Confuse us further.
Of course, the recovery of public funds stolen is a fight against corruption.
It's a fight against corruption.
Maybe what he's talking about is that those who are stealing it now, he's not fighting all of them.
But also, I think part of the challenge...
the president is actually, sorry, sir. I think that we should also give some credit. We have an EFCC. Every day I get press releases of people who have been sent to jail, monies recovered.
Oh, yes.
And the EFCC was not set up by the Buhari administration. But he's using his administration is using it.
I think the challenge we have is that we hear recoveries. They say 600 billion. Okay? You now go to FIRS. They say they've made the biggest money in the history of FIRS. Wherever you go, there are these superlatives. But when it comes to implementing the budget, they say there's no money to implement the budget. They go borrowing. So these things are not adding up. The stories are not adding up. Do you understand what is leading?
Government is
and
still
also
underfunded.
Yeah. So
even with the FIRS.
Now, the point we are making is that there is so much hype about what is going on that to an extent people are no longer getting to believe. Because if you tell me you have recovered 600 billion, we need to see it. We need to see where it is invested. Tell us where you are investing it so that we can follow through. So that is what is happening. And I think also part of the challenge for some of us, I mentioned fighting corruption from an empirical perspective. The National Assembly has passed the audit bill because I believe the Office of the Auditor General should be one of the biggest anti-corruption agencies. And it's not the noisy type. It is a place where you have professional accountants, auditors, engineers, lawyers who are doing their work on an empirical basis. If they find anything wrong based on public service rules, financial instructions, and the laws, they give you an audit query and give you the opportunity to respond. And it is based on your response, they now write a recommendation.
Forensic methods.
Yes. So that agency has been poorly funded, is not being reformed. Now the National Assembly has passed this bill into law. It's been with the president, and nothing has happened. So we are wondering whether the president really understands the agencies it needs to strengthen. Because if you remember, ICPC bill came first under Obasanjo. When ICPC didn't perform to existing, he brought EFCC. So you need to keep fine-tuning these things. And then there's this issue of process of crime. We've been told so many stories about this process. Nigerians need to have a proper picture of where are these processes of crime were housed. How much is the money beyond the hype? Where exactly has it been used? Because every year you see a budget figure saying money from recoveries. At the end of the year, you don't get a good story of how much actually came in and where it has been used.
Now, this your assertion about institutions and government itself obeying the laws actually brings me to one critical issue, and we should not allow it go without asking the question. The award of contracts in Nigeria.
Good.
The Federal Executive Council awards contracts in Nigeria, but we know there's a National Procurement Council. I don't know if I got that name correctly.
Yeah, National Council on Public Procurement.
That a law that is in existence in Nigeria.
Yes.
Do you see the president being bold enough, courageous enough in the next 4 years, constituting this council and stopping the Federal Executive Council from awarding contracts?
Institutionalized approach.
Yes, that's the part of the institutional approach I earlier discussed. Now, even there is a misunderstanding of what that council is supposed to do. That council is not a contract awarding council. The current Public Procurement Act talks about the processes from which you get certificate of no objection for the big ones. So at the end of the day, that council is supposed to be a policy council, okay, that approves policies generated by the BPP, Bureau of Public Procurement. So it's not a day-to-day place where you go and award contracts. But the politicians misunderstood it to mean that if you set up this council, that
it will assume that the position of
that they will no longer be allowed to do contracts the way they like. If you recall, Yar'Adua had actually convened the members of this council. He had actually appointed people, including those to represent civil society, giving them a date for inauguration. They were already sitting in the council chambers. And actually, from information I got from those who were there, Yar'Adua had left his room and was coming to inaugurate it before some people ran after him and told him, "Sir, if you inaugurate this council, then I don't know why you contested the elections. That means you have no more power again. All your powers are gone." He now sent a message to them because he didn't quite understand what they were saying. Say, "Gentlemen, I'm indisposed. You can go. We'll call you back."
And the council was never inaugurated.
I don't know what they told him. But if he read the law as a lawyer and understood it, he would have gone ahead to inaugurate the council.
All right, we can take just one or two last calls so that we do not shortchange you in the course of this program.
Keep it short and simple.
Yeah, keep it short and simple. Hello.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
My name is Ifeanyi.
Ifeanyi.
Yeah, you are asking about 4 years in Buhari administration. You have a period of fight corruption.
Yes.
Yes, he has fight corruption. For him on his phone that fight corruption. But the judges, they are the ones delaying the prosecution of the corruption.
Yeah.
Check the two former governors that they are constantly now. I think one of them is EDP members. If EDP in their 16 years, they saw what this man saw in 4 years, at least corruption will have addressed minimum this thing.
All right. But let's come back to the studio. And here are our guest who has given us very, very concise and straightforward answers to our questions. Now, let us look at the way forward.
The way forward for me is that we should take stock and evaluate what has happened in the last 4 years. If there are ideas that should be on the table, the president should lead in bringing them to fruition, like the idea of special courts to try corruption cases so that they don't...
Do we need a special court? Actually,
to speed it up, we may need... But you have to bring a bill.
Just like what we did to armed robbery those days. When there was a problem, we set up armed robbery tribunals.
You have to bring a bill to the National Assembly and get them to approve it, and then you are sent to it. So you look at the areas where there are lapses. If you are doing investigation, is EFCC, do they have the resources and the manpower to do investigation properly? Because many of the cases they are losing, it's not that the people didn't steal, but the way the cases were investigated and prosecuted, you strengthen. So this thing doesn't need shouting. It doesn't need the media.
Just grow the institution.
It's just something that you sit down quietly and do. Get sound professionals and let them do their job. Stop media trials. Dig holes around the person before you arrest him. Don't arrest somebody and put him away for 30 days, right? Do your investigation proper. That the day you pick up somebody, in the next 2-3 days is before a court and the trial has started. Don't sensationalize anything.
About presidency and legislature working more closely?
Yeah, that's part of what we expect. If they have their way in putting their own men and women, but I hope that shouldn't be a rubber stamp legislature.
All right, EZE Onyenkpere is the Executive Director of Center for Social Justice. He's been with us, and this edition has been devoted to you out there, devoted to allow you specifically to tell us what you expect in the next 4 years, and judging by what has happened in the last 4 years as far as the corruption fight is concerned. We want to thank you so much, EZE Onyenkpere, for being part of this special edition of this program. And we want to thank you out there, on those who contributed to our social media. Remember that you can watch our YouTube channel, Primark TV, and drop your comment. It is very important that you drop your comment after watching. And for those who joined me on my Facebook page, thank you so much. And we also expect you to drop your comment. And remember that you can continue to give us your comments on our WhatsApp line. That is 09022656167. You can continue to interact with us on info@primark.org. info@primark.org. Primark is spelled PRIMORG. I want to thank my guests in here, and Chukudi. Let me also hear the last from you.
I think it's been a robust edition, and talking helps listening. Let's hope the ears will be used properly.
And thank you so much out there. My name is Okiri Agbonsuremi, and as the president takes the oath of office for his second term, let all of us put our hands on the deck to support this administration. Thank you so much for being part of Public Conscience on Radio.